danger and make life dangerous.
Proposals under review include limits on how many firearms an individual can own and stricter ongoing license reviews. The shooting unfolded Sunday evening as thousands gathered along the beach for a Hanukkah by the Sea event, marking the start of the Jewish festival. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Houston Mayor John Whitmire has been rebuked by his lifelong political party. Officials with the Harris County Democratic Party voted yesterday to condemn him for attending a Republican fundraiser in April, and he's barred from receiving the party's endorsement in the future. Political scientist Mark Jones with Rice University argues it's unlikely to make a big difference in the 2027 mayoral campaign, given Whitmire's bipartisan support.
Precinct chairs, on average, tend to be notably more progressive than the average Democratic voter. While it's not a positive outcome for the mayor, I don't think it's one that's going to have much of a negative impact on his reelection efforts in 2027.
Whitmire won without the party's direct support in 2023. It didn't endorse a candidate then because there were multiple Democrats running for a nonpartisan position. Harris County commissioners criticized the results of a pay equity study they said was riddled with flaws. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno says that the county paid Gallagher Benefit Services $1.2 million to provide recommendations for implementing an equitable pay structure by next year.
The court requested the costly study in order to address pay disparities across Harris County's 62 departments. But during Commissioners' Court on Thursday, Harris County Commissioner Tom Ramsey said that the study is flawed and key precinct positions were misclassified or excluded, like mechanics being placed as accountants.
So when you start trying to say a nursing position is kind of like a road and bridge position, you don't know what in the hell you're doing.
Gallagher presented the results of the study to commissioners in October. Commissioner Rodney Ellis said that it found that Hispanic women are the lowest paid Harris County employees, followed by Black women. The median salary for Black and Hispanic women working for Harris County was $59,000 compared to $76,000 for white men, a 29% difference. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
It's 38 degrees right now on the UH campus. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from ARM, committed to delivering innovative, advanced computing designed to enable worldwide companies to unleash the capabilities and experiences of AI. The future of AI is built on ARM. ARM.com. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're back.
Good morning and welcome.
Yes.
Good morning.
A Monday morning.
Yes. Quite a weekend for news.
Quite a weekend?
Yeah. It's like I want us to go into our little lively chat, but so much has gone
tragedy.
on and so much we have to talk about today. We've got a very full show for you, and if you've tuned in, you're here with us right now. We're going to have a lot to cover. We're going to look at what's going on with Venezuela when it comes to the oil industry. It's so important to our community and what this could mean for us, and that's coming up later in the show. It got very cold out there.
Did you notice that?
Yes.
I mean, right down there in the freezing mark for a lot of folks. The good news is it's warming up already. 50s today, 42 overnight tonight, and then we'll warm up towards 70. And Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, 80 degrees both days.
Oh, why?
Well, 80's better than like 100.
And let me tell you, so Kevin called me. He's like, my tire pressure. And I'm like, yes, cold air contracts. Hot air expands, cold air contracts. And so that cold air in your tire can contract. And big time, for every 10-degree drop, 2 pounds of air pressure could come out of your tires. 1 to 2, but 2 is possible. So when it goes from 75 degrees on Saturday to 35 degrees on Monday morning, you're talking about an 8-pound loss of pressure on your tires.
And that makes total sense as to why usually, exactly like Kevin noticed, every time the temperatures drop, my car light, my temper, the light always comes on.
Well,
I'm like, do I need to actually go fill up my tires?
Well, you should, yeah. I do that. You could wait for it to warm up and it'll expand again. But you got to be careful. You still check the tire, because if you're lower than what they recommend, it can get a little dangerous. There's a reason that they recommend per square inch inflatable.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I didn't lose 8 pounds of pressure over the
You
weekend.
didn't lose any pounds.
No,
I can see
gained
that.
pounds.
I had dinner with you last night, so I know exactly what you've been doing.
Well, it's not my fault. Kevin passed me his piece of cake too. So,
He did. I
but he
noticed
wanted
that.
my empty plate, so it didn't look bad. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin, for watching out for me as I overate the cake. It was pumpkin flavor. You know, I love fall flavors.
Yes.
So
It was actually really good.
Yeah,
With
we
the
were at
cream
the-
cheese icing.
Yeah, it was the Houston
We were at the
Treasures.
Houston Treasures dinner last night
Yeah.
that Scott Evans and Warner Roberts put on, and saw some old faces, just like we're going to see today, and enjoyed it. It was very nice. It was very nice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all of that said, please join us over in YouTube. A lot of our YouTubers are already chatting amongst themselves. We love to follow that group too, so you can always follow the show over there. But there's a lot in the news, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Celeste, you heard what Frank and I were up to this weekend. What did you do this weekend?
I'm trying to think again. I never remember about what was going on, but I had a lovely evening yesterday with my family, and then
You had a lovely evening Friday night.
Oh yes, Friday night, Ernie and I went out together, and that was
C.J.
fabulous.
Emmons,
Yes,
C.J.
we went and saw
Emmons.
C.J.
It
Emmons.
was
It
amazing.
was amazing as
It was
it was.
What a showman.
Yeah.
Yes,
They
truly.
gave you his entire life in song and stories and clips and photos, and his whole family was there, it seems.
It was very
Even
fun.
some came late, and
was-
he pointed that out to them. And then the big finish, standing ovation applause, and the backup singers, one of them goes to the mic and says, there'll be a 15-minute intermission, and we'll be back with the concert portion of the show.
Wow.
He
Wow.
gave you his all.
He really did put it all out there, and it was a fabulous show. It was very fun.
I would have loved it.
It's just great to see someone local, do well and come back home and bring
Yes.
all of his talents and share them with the local crowd. And it was his babysitter was in the audience.
Yes, it was just very sweet. It was very good. But this morning I went to Philip's Christmas program. And
I saw the
actually
video. It's
made
adorable.
it. So I was very happy about
I
it.
keep referring to it here at the station as his pageant. He had his pageant.
Ernie
this
goes, "Did he
morning."
win?" I said, "No." Yes.
Well, that was part of what we saw and experienced over the weekend, but there were other things, and a lot of it made it into the news. Celeste, lead us off.
Yep, the Houston area has lost a broadcast news legend. Dave Ward, the longtime anchor at KTRK, has died at the age of 86, the station announced Saturday. Ward was on air for more than 50 years in Houston, including KNUZ Radio.
No news in Houston. Dial capital 89711.
LBJ says space shots helping hats. This is Dave Ward. Complete details in 8 minutes.
Before he retired, he was awarded the Guinness World Record for the longest career as a news broadcaster at one station. And of course, he had his signature phrase.
Good evening, friends. I'm Dave Ward.
Over 5 decades, Dave covered topics from spacewalks, the Vietnam peace talks, to natural disasters and politics, including a one-on-one interview with President Obama. And joining us now is longtime colleague of Dave Ward and co-anchor from 1986 to 2002, a Houston broadcasting legend herself, Shara Fryer. Miss Fryer, welcome to Hello Houston.
Oh, please just call me Shara.
Don't worry.
Miss Fryer, I love it, but thank you.
Shara,
You're sweet to do that.
Welcome to Hello Houston. And if you have a comment or you would like to join the conversation, you can join us at 713-440-8870.
So sad, but wow, what a legacy Dave Ward has left the city.
It's hard for me to fathom.
I know.
I'm reading everything and I'm listening to people talk about him, and I think I have so many memories of Dave that, I know that everybody knows that he was their friend and good evening, friends. When I filled in for him when he was on vacation, I never said, I'd say, good evening, everybody. I would never use his phrase because it was his. Yeah. And you didn't want to do that. But I was thinking about it after I'd done a couple of these interviews, and I thought, you know, what Dave and I did is we relied on each other so much because we were on the air for so many events where we were on all night long. And it wasn't scripted, and I would talk and he would talk. I was thinking about Jessica McClure, the little girl who fell down the well in Midnight.
Yes. Yeah.
We were on, watching it, covering it. It was our live truck that was there, our satellite truck that we sent, that ABC was getting all their audio from and being able to use. We stayed on the air into network TV on that night in order to bring that little child up.
Right.
And people don't remember, that was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
When not just the event, but when local television took the airwaves over the national television broadcast.
You just didn't do that.
No, you didn't. Not
when you were part of ABC, which we were, and you just didn't do that. But we did.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were so grateful that it wasn't a terrible tragedy because it was like, what's going to happen if she doesn't make it? How are we going to handle this? And, you know, Dave and I are there, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at the screens and we're talking over it when we can, and we're trying it. We did that so much that the Challenger disaster, the Columbia disaster, Hurricane Alicia, Tropical Storm Allison, 9/11, the Branch Davidian compound at Waco. I mean, I think about all these things where Dave and I were there. We went to work when we normally did. We did all of our newscasts, and then when the 10 o'clock was over, we didn't get to go home. We were there all night. And in the case of the tropical storm, nobody could get into us because it rained inside the loop, and nobody could get in to relieve us. So we were on the air until 8:30 the next morning.
Sure.
When they finally sent somebody in a Humvee. So it's more than friendship. It's more than colleague. He was my brother in so many ways. I learned so much from him. But it was that reliance, knowing I could count on him. When we were on the air and things were going crazy, I could count on Dave, always, and he could count on me. I felt like he felt he could. And then, you know, you get very personal with each other because we went through a lot of decades of our lives together.
Sure.
Technically, I went to work in 1980 with him and then didn't leave until 2007. So for 27 years, Dave Ward and I were very, very tight.
More than longevity, was there something about the two of you personality-wise that made that team work so well?
I think, you know, I was sandwiched between Dave and Marvin. So,
and you lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, I used to say, you know, I sat on the right hand of Marvin, who thought he was God. But I would tell those stories. I had Dave over there with his incredible voice, and then Marvin over there, who, you know, Marvin, what a guy. He was like my uncle. I always said he was like my uncle. He was good. I think a lot of it had to do with, I grew up in small town Texas. And I really understood Dave and his upbringing and where he came from, and the son of a preacher man who nonetheless loved to go to K's.
Oh, yeah.
Pop back that beer. Dave had the most beautiful voice singing. He had a great singing voice. And I can remember him standing outside singing "The Wheel and the Wheel Way Up Yonder." He knew all the words. And I was so impressed by that. But I think that was a lot of it. I grew up in a small town, so to me, everybody's a friend. Everybody's part of the community. And that was very much the atmosphere among us as a team. Bob Allen, the sportscaster, grew up here, played Little League and all that stuff with everybody here. Ed Brandon, Texarkana, and by way of Austin, you know, and then ended up in Houston. But again, we were Texans. We knew the community. We knew what our listeners felt about most things. And I don't know that you always have that.
Yeah.
I don't know that you always don't either, but it was a miracle.
Isn't it funny how the good old days are the ones you're living, and you don't realize they're the good old days until you get decades beyond them, and you look back. Talk about the golden age of television news. The 80s and even into the 90s couldn't have been better. And ABC 13, I mean, that was probably the number one local news operation in the country.
I think it might have been very easily.
Certainly number one in Texas.
We had such an audience, and we knew it. And we knew that if we got knocked off the air by a hurricane, that was kind of bad. People would have to try to get their news, I guess, from the radio stations then, you know. Sure. KTRH, which became another one. I went from KTRK to KTRH. But there's something about coming into someone's living room,
Sure.
as you do, or their bedroom at night.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, right? Because you talk about that small town upbringing, but yet Houston is a huge city. So do you think it was that kind of y'all's past and your experiences from being raised in small town Texas that brought people together? They could relate to that?
We were here for the growth of Houston. So 55,000 people every year. Or families coming in. And I would go to a neighborhood and I'd run into people who say, hey, Shara, I'm from Shiner or I'm from Hallettsville. Well, they'd never lived there, but their grandparents did. Yeah. So a lot of people from small town Texas migrated. Of course, this is where the business was, the industry. But the oil industry was by far the biggest employer originally. You know, Medical Center started encroaching on all that and oil's falling off now. These are people from small towns who work hard jobs, and they have to fight the weather. And we didn't have all this electronic stuff. Yeah. And so life was hard. It was difficult. And you would go into a neighborhood. Everybody would come to downtown Houston when there was a parade. Well, now they've got their own stuff.
Right.
They've got their own city centers. We've got 5, 6, 7, 8 different city centers around Houston. So people in Sugar Land, they don't necessarily have to come into downtown Houston anymore. But back in 1980, they did. So, you know, the world changes. I'm just so grateful that Dave got to live it and see it and stay on top of it. I started out shooting a Bell and Howell, too. You know, 8mm film. I did. And then I graduated to a CP16 with sound on tape. Oh, my God. I mean, but it happened so fast. And we knew it was going to. But what's happened since the smartphone, since 2007, and iPhones and everything that's happening, and now with this AI, I just can't even imagine where we're going to be in just 5 years.
Let me ask this question. As the city grew, as the success of this news organization grew too, did you see a change in Dave?
Never.
Or did he stay that same small town guy who was going to report the news?
He, let's put it this way, he realized how much everybody depended on him and how he was really the face, the icon, the iconic identity. And again, you've heard it. I mean, he revered Walter Cronkite. And so he wanted to be that guy. He wanted to be the man that you could turn to when there was trouble. And he was. And what a miracle that I got to work with him.
And really accepting. I mean, I remember when Harry Reasoner was such a jerk to Barbara Walters.
I do too.
I mean,
called her the Today Show girl, and then on ABC. Which was Reasoner. I mean, he treated her like she was dirt.
Yeah, and the male anchors were very reluctant to have the women come on board and be an equal co-anchor. But Dave, and he told me this, he said, Shara Fryer couldn't be better. Just love her. I mean, he really was. I guess you got that feeling from him.
I did. I mean, in so many ways. The man was always very gentlemanly toward me. I mean, like I said, he was like this older brother. He was very protective. I was very protective of him, too, though. I mean, we had our problems individually, you know, in our personal lives. And Dave was there. Dave came to both of my parents' funerals. I went to his mother's funeral. We were there for each other when the personal life, we didn't have a whole lot of time for personal life because everything, the job was our life and doing what we could to make Houston better. I mean, we loved Houston and trying to make Houston a better place by being where not everybody could be, but we could be there and we could be their eyes and ears. And I think we felt that very strongly.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We're remembering the life and legacy of longtime news anchor Dave Ward. We did receive a text from Richard in Magnolia who says, I grew up in Houston in the mid-'60s into the 70s. Dave was a mainstay in our house. Rest in peace, Mr. Ward. That again was from Richard of Magnolia.
Yeah, I think that pretty much expresses the whole city when they look back at Dave Ward's legacy. We're touched in some way. You know, when you're the main anchor, as you were too, on the main station for so long, through so many things. You're just part of the family. Whether you know that, but you don't realize it sometimes that people literally grow up with you.
And people don't always realize that we like being part of the family.
Yeah.
You know, I like being part of the family.
Sure.
And that's the neat thing. And we had that atmosphere. I mean, everybody, it was a different type of TV station than a lot, I think. Yeah. Maybe. But boy, was it. They worked us to death.
Well, I remember.
Really worked us
Share Your
hard.
Christmas. The Share Your Christmas program was huge, and of course
started the food bank.
Yeah, and then, it was so giving back, and of course Marvin gave back every night. It's hell to be poor.
It's
he
hell to
went
be
out
poor.
there
That's right.
and he really made a difference in people's lives.
The
It was
cockroaches, that was something else.
Dr. Red Duke, huge for ABC back in those
We
days.
had management that was that way, and they were not Texan. That's what was so weird a lot. They came from New York.
Yeah,
but they came
California,
down and they
sure.
adopted and they adapted, and they just had these brilliant ideas. The Challenger Center Gala that we gave. I mean, Dave and I shared a stage with some really, Ray Charles sitting there. I thought he was going to fall off his piano bench, and I thought, what am I going to do with him? We're up, and this is live TV. I mean, they made us do things. They made us go live from the Elissa when it was making its maiden voyage outside of Galveston. How did they do that? A portable satellite unit beamed up to the helicopter, beamed in. I mean,
Yep.
it's like we had guys and engineers who just said, nothing's impossible. We're going to do it. Yeah. Then they got the satellite truck. They sent me to Washington, D.C., to the Kennedy Center to do a test drive on it as it was driving back. Let's see if it works. The Houston Ballet was performing at the Kennedy Center, so I'm on a plane to the Kennedy Center, and we're stringing cable into the Kennedy Center to do the first satellite truck thing. And then it was here in time to do Jessica McClure. I mean, go figure that one.
Later in life with Dave, do you know what were some of the points he looked back on in his career that kind of filled him with awe or fascination?
I think he was most proud of his whole relationship with law enforcement and Crime Stoppers. Yeah. Basically, he started that program. It started in Houston. I was in Austin at the time working in TV, and we copied Houston doing Crime Stoppers. And it was no happenstance that ultimately that became his mission in life. And I saw him when he would see a police officer who, we were leaving the Astrodome after doing something one evening, and there was a crowd of people, and they were getting unruly, and the police officers were getting overwhelmed. Dave jumped out of the car and went over to help.
Wow.
He was that kind of guy.
Well, they named a building after Dave, right? The
yeah.
Crime Stoppers, yeah. I mean, he really was essential and brought it to life.
And I read online today that they're going to have his body lying in state there tomorrow at the Crime Stoppers building.
I believe his funeral is on Friday.
Friday at noon.
And will be live streamed on KTRK. But standing room only, I'm sure, at St. Martin's Episcopal.
Well, that's a big church.
Yeah, but it's a big man.
And we have received quite a few really nice comments from our YouTube community. Noah Espinosa says, I'm so thankful to have been able to grow up with such a legend in the helping lead our community for so long. Also, Ejo says, I had to have my wife tell me what Dave was saying at sometimes because I couldn't understand all he was saying with that deep voice. Also, Charlie.
Isn't it funny?
It is so funny. Charlie Parker from Texas also says, I am 44 years old and I remember Dave and Shara and Eyewitness News growing up. This was back when kids would sit and watch the news and it was part of their day. So there you go.
That appointment television for news it's just not there anymore.
It's not. I mean, but more of us watch on our phones than you realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try not to watch while you're driving, but you have a hard time. You can at least listen.
I still turn it on. I mean, but I'm 65, but I still like to turn on the 5, 6, and 10 news and catch it, at least have it in the background.
I have a husband who does. So he keeps me up to date, and I go through. When you spend so much of your life gathering the news in order to tell it, you don't always spend a lot of time letting other people do that for you.
Yeah.
That's
Will
part
we
of it.
see the likes of a Dave Ward again? Or is the time the world changed so that this was a moment that won't be repeated?
I don't think you'll ever see another Dave Ward, that type. I think everything's going to change. I mean, who knows who that kind of leadership, maybe it'll be the YouTube guys.
Maybe.
You know, maybe it'll be on. I think there's something about being able to see. I think there's a lot about radio and being able to hear the voice. I'm so grateful that I had time to learn radio. But there'll never be another Dave Ward.
Well, and there won't be a lot of Shara Fryers out there either. It sure is good to see you.
It's good to see you again. Frank and I used to work together. It was great.
6 years.
Shara, thank you for joining us today
Thank
on
you.
Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with Ed Hurst, energy fellow at the University of Houston and an expert in energy economics, about the latest conflict with Venezuelan oil tankers. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Thousands upon thousands of books come out every year. How does any publication possibly make a best-of-year list?
Our editors, who are reading so many books and reading months ahead of when the books actually come out, are looking for that spark, something that feels special, something that feels different.
A look at the New York Times top books of 2025. That's next time on Think.
Support comes from John Moore, helping with plumbing, electrical, and air conditioning repairs, including out-of-warranty units since 1965. Details at 730-2525 or at johnmooreservices.com.
Support comes from Houston Habitat for Humanity, celebrating the season by creating affordable home ownership opportunities. Together, we build stability. Learn how you can make a difference at houstonhabitat.org/NPR.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Last week, President Trump ordered the seizure of Venezuelan oil tankers as part of a broader push to tighten sanctions on the Maduro government. The move raises questions about global crude supply, shipping risks, and potential impacts on oil prices. And joining us now to help us better understand what this means for us right here in Houston is Ed Hurst, Energy Fellow at the University of Houston and an expert in energy economics. Ed, welcome back to Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. And if you have a question or comment, you can send us a text or give us a call at 713-440-8870.
So just to set the table before we get into the conversation, what exactly happened?
So the U.S. Navy took over a tanker shipping 2 million barrels of crude. The cargo, I think, was destined for Cuba. The tanker, according to the administration, is one that had been on their watch list for a number of years, hauling cargoes from Iran, perhaps Russia, and from Venezuela. And, it's a fairly easy matter to stop a tanker in the middle of the ocean. The regime in Venezuela has current level of exports is between 500,000 and 800,000 barrels a day, well down from the 2 million barrels a day that were, I guess, the peak under the Maduro regime before President Obama put in sanctions against Venezuela. So Venezuela, in terms of its position as a major contributor to global oil, has really deteriorated over the last 15 years. It's gone way the heck down. At peak production or peak exports, 2.5 to almost 3 million barrels a day before Chavez took office.
I still don't get it. Why? What gives us the right to just seize another country's oil tanker? I mean, it didn't have drugs on it, right?
But the tanker itself was carrying sanctioned oil. We've had sanctions against Venezuela and the regime. I'm not the legal expert here, but
explain what that means, though. It had sanctioned oil.
We've been trying to cut Venezuela's crude oil lifelines, cash, if you will, by preventing their commercial activity. In other words, blocking shipments to other countries, enforcing economic sanctions against the tankers. We've been doing that against Russia with the coordination of the EU. We've blocked Russian exports into the EU and tried to block them across the globe. China and India continue to buy that crude oil, and there is some exchange going on or laundering of crude oil in the Middle East. Kazakhstan's production suddenly jumped tremendously. Azerbaijan's production is up significantly, and that's not from drilling any new wells.
But we haven't seized a lot of tankers.
No, we haven't. This is a new this is an escalation, if you will.
Yeah.
So when we look at something like this, I would imagine, given the size, that here locally or even nationally, we're not going to necessarily be seeing a huge uptick in price when it comes to oil and gas.
Well, the price today for WTI is somewhere around $56.50. So it's down from last Friday. The market has taken this in stride, not thinking of it as a significant impact on global oil supplies. Keep in mind that MBS, the leader of Saudi Arabia, visited the president 4 to 6 weeks ago, and I would guess, in view of the naval buildup we have offshore Venezuela, the topic of Saudi Arabia backstopping any oil into the market came up. Saudi Arabia has about 2 million barrels a day of spare production capacity that they could turn the valve on and bring to market.
From where you sit, is this an unprovoked escalation in the oil wars, if you want to call them that? Or is it something that was predictable and makes sense now that you talk about sanctions and what's happening globally? Mm-hmm. Is this a logical next step?
I really don't think this is an oil market issue per se. Mm-hmm. This is what the administration and Congress have been pointing to for a long time: regime change in Venezuela. The opposition leader was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, but because of travel restrictions and fear for her life, didn't get to Oslo until after, or Stockholm, did not get there until after the award ceremony.
But we don't seem to have a big plan other than regime change. But we don't have, the drug cartels could come in and take over.
That would be rank speculation on everybody's part right now.
That's all we have is speculation.
That's it.
Then we don't have a plan.
Well, we don't have one. We don't have one that we can see. The administration, the DOD, Department of War, they have to have a plan. The State Department has to have a plan.
Does this change then the way other countries look at us when it comes to moving their oil? Is it going to have an impact?
No.
No.
This is very pointed towards Venezuela.
Yeah, so it's just political.
And there's only one Venezuela.
Yeah.
Although Trump has said, Colombia, you could be next.
Yes, well, Colombia is going away from oil production as fast as it can, actually, and working to push to renewables and preserve more of its rainforest.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And going away a little bit also in this conversation from oil, why don't we head to Texas crypto mining? Because I just read a report about essentially that cryptocurrency mines consumed 14.7 million megawatt hours of electricity. And that was according to the public records obtained by the Straight Arrow News. Talk to us a little bit about that right here in Texas.
Yeah, and you got to set the stage because people don't really understand how mining for crypto burns electricity.
Right.
But it does.
Right. And so the Bitcoin algorithm is what keeps that portion of its blockchain going. And it's forever doing calculations, trying to determine who owns which, where the wallet is located.
Just computers.
It's a computer.
It's constantly running.
It's a whole load of computers doing this.
Yeah.
There are more than 60 cryptocurrency miners on the Texas grid, the ERCOT grid. The legislature was so concerned about it with, I think, Senate Bill 6 this past legislative session. They asked for these mines to be located. They wanted transparency. The Public Utility Commission and ERCOT have refused to do that, apparently on the grounds of national security. Keaton Peters, the journalist with the Straight Arrow News, has sued for these records. The Attorney General's office has joined him in this. They're trying to get the Public Utility Commission and ERCOT to abide by the law, and they haven't so far. Let's take that amount of electricity and put it into perspective. That was in 2024. That's the same amount as the city of San Antonio, city of El Paso, and city of Garland combined. The proponents of the cryptocurrency miners say, well, that hasn't done anything to the price of electricity, but the independent market monitor for ERCOT has stated that for 23, it increased the price 5%. And we know whenever the new demand comes to a market that is supply constrained, the price is going to go up. And that's exactly what we're seeing across Texas. All of us are helping subsidize the cryptocurrency miners because they do operate at low electricity prices. When the price jumps up, they receive payments or credits from ERCOT to offset that. Well, we're the ones who are paying for that higher electricity price. If they weren't there in the first place, the electricity price would be lower and there wouldn't be such a strain on the demand and supply.
Wind and solar. The Energy Secretary says that wind and solar is actually increasing electricity prices because you have to have traditional backups in case wind and solar go down. True or false?
Like with everything, there's a little bit of truth, a little bit of false with it. In Texas, without wind and solar, our grid is dead. We don't have enough power plants to keep us going especially through a really cold, wet winter night. We're short, and ERCOT acknowledges that. If we have a storm like we did in February of 2021 with freezing precipitation, something that would take the wind turbines offline, we still don't have enough batteries on the grid to get us through a cold night. Now, we've got 15 gigawatts of battery capacity that's joined the grid. This is incredible growth over the last couple of years. And of course, you can charge a battery with anything. It doesn't have to be wind and solar. We're almost to a point where we don't have to worry too much about a nasty cold front with freezing precipitation, but we're still not there yet. What the secretary said on Fox is, as we said, sometimes a little right and sometimes a little wrong. Natural gas prices are up 25% over this time last year. That's contributing to higher wholesale electricity prices across the nation, and he really can't do anything about that. The cryptocurrency miners, of course, they are contributing to higher electricity prices. This is new demand. We have data centers joining the grid. There are 450 data centers in Virginia. The independent market monitor for the Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland PJM grid has done its best to try to convince PJM not to admit any more data centers unless they come with their own electricity supplies. The backlog of natural gas plants is now 5 years, 6 years. The small modular reactors that we're all hoping come around, we're not going to see any of those hit the grid for 5 to 10 years. We need transmission and distribution build out. We've ignored our infrastructure for a long time, and the cost of doing that has really gone up. The cost of steel is up 50% due to the tariff war, and the cost of labor is up. We've got to train people. This is not something AI can do. AI can't go hang wires on poles.
Okay, we got to leave it there. Ed, we'll always learn something when you're on our show.
Yes, Ed, you're going to have to come back and continue giving us the state of energy. Ed Hurst is an energy fellow at the University of Houston and an expert in energy economics. Again, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Coming up, a look at what the Energy Corridor of Houston's orchestra has in store ahead of the new year. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is attempting to We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
And the St. Luke's Foundation, supporting clinical excellence, compassionate care, and a healthier future for all. More at supportstlukes.org.
Support comes from the Welcome Group and Welcome Wilson Jr., President and CEO. With over 9 million square feet of manufacturing and industrial facilities in over 130 locations in Texas and the Southeast. More at welcomegroup.com.
Support comes from Visit Galveston, presenting winter events across the island, including Holiday in the Gardens, Polar Express train ride, and attractions welcoming visitors during the holiday season. More information is available at visitgalveston.com. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing Metro Downtown Direct, helping riders get home for the holidays with non-stop service between downtown and Bush Intercontinental Airport. Details at ridemetro.org/500.
And now back to Hello Houston. Join the conversation. Call now, 713-440-8870.
The Energy Corridor Houston
or email us
Orchestra, better
at
known
talk
as ECHO, is gearing up for
hellohouston.org.
a festive season of music and community. Their annual New Year's Eve celebration is right around the corner, and the closing of their 12th season, including a family-friendly Latin-themed concert in January and a spring finale filled with American classics and new works by local composers, is also on the schedule. Joining us now to talk about all that and more with ECHO's conductor, Michael Fahey, and executive director, Kelli Soika. Welcome to both of you.
Why, thank you.
Okay, first of all, I am not as familiar with your orchestra as I may be with like the Houston Symphony and things like that. Tell me a little bit, I'll start with you, Kelli, on this, about the orchestra in general to get people up to date.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, that people think Houston Symphony downtown, but we're in West Houston. West Houston has its own orchestra, which is no small thing to have an actual orchestra in your geographic area. So if you don't want to drive into downtown and you want to hear some really great, vibrant orchestral music, then ECHO's the way to go.
Michael, I think some people hear orchestra, think to themselves, all right, it's all boring classical. I look at your repertoire of what you're doing this year. That is not what you're putting out there.
Right. I like to say it's not your grandma's orchestra. in that sense that we're playing music that appeals to all generations. The gray-haired folks like myself.
And me, unfortunately, now.
But also the younger people. Many of the pieces on this particular concert come from people's childhood. In fact, a number of the Venezuelan songs are taken directly from childhood songs that have now become adult favorites in that community, and hopefully in the community that doesn't yet know them.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. I believe there are only two types of music in the world. So good music and boring music.
No bad music.
That's
it's
right.
It's just boring.
Good music and boring music. and in other words, we're trying to play exciting music from all genres, from all cultures, from all traditions. And that's been our goal right from the start.
Kelli, let me ask you this. Right now, Venezuela is quite in the news. I'm curious, how early on was this choice of music decided, and is it kind of a reaction to what's happening in the world today, or is it just an amazing coincidence?
Well, it's an amazing coincidence because this has been planned for a long time. But it's not coincidental that Venezuelan music really contributes to the rhythms and the beats that have come through into American music. And so when we looked out at our season, we tried to figure out ways of bringing forth different aspects of American music. And so this program really will show you some of the roots of American folk music. It will show you some of the things that have been ported over that will sound really familiar to your ear, even if you are not familiar with Latin American music. And certainly, if you are familiar with Latin American music, there's going to be plenty in there that just feels like home to you.
So when you how do you define America? When you talk about American music, are we talking about our country? Are we talking about the continent? Are we talking about...
Well, I think that we're talking about both of those things. I've always believed
both continents, I should say.
Well, that's true, both continents. But we're talking about the North American, United States music from the United States. But we're also talking about music from the whole hemisphere, because really our hemisphere grows together musically and otherwise. And I've always believed that the strength of this country is it's in its diversity. Cultural diversity, ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, and that's what we're trying to highlight with our season and with our concert. So we've got music from this country, we've got music from Mexico, we've got music from Argentina, we've got Puerto Rican music, Colombian music. We do have quite a bit of Venezuelan music being performed by Venezuelan artists. We even have music from that little tiny country that people don't always think about called Uruguay. And it's a beautiful tango called La Comparsita.
Yeah.
And so we've got something for everybody. But all of those cultures contribute to a beautiful musical quilt or tapestry that is the American musical landscape.
It reminds me of, and sorry if this is a little bit of a journey to get to your reactions, but Yoko Ono once made a piece called Playing by Trust. It was a chessboard where all the squares were the same color and all the pieces were the same color, to point that once you start playing the game, there is no way to separate people from people. We're all people. And I feel musically, in a sense, that's what you can do with an orchestra like this. When you bring this music in, there are no boundaries to music. Music, it just flows.
That's absolutely right. And we are so fortunate in this city to be so diverse, that we have so many musicians who represent diverse cultures from all over the world, and we try to highlight them each season, perhaps a different culture. Last season, Italian. We featured Italian culture. We brought in a tenor to sing beautiful Italian arias, that, the ones that people know and love, but also we tried to do some things that people don't know, because that way they get to grow and learn and enrich their own musical experience. But we're very fortunate in this city because we have so many traditions to pull from.
Yeah. Kelly, it reminds me of an old television commercial I used to say. It was for a compilation album of classical music. And it said, some of these songs are so good they've been used in TV and movies. But as much as that's funny, it's so true how much of what I just think about the cartoons I saw as a kid and what we were introduced to.
Yes, absolutely. It's so funny. Last season, we played Rhapsody in Blue. And Rhapsody in Blue, of course, has been used in many advertisements. And people, it's part of the way that you take in culture. And it's part of the way that you understand the culture around you is through advertisements and, through the broader popular culture. So I don't think there's anything wrong with highlighting some of that music because, boy, it makes you happy when you sit down in the audience and you recognize something that you really like,
Yeah, and you get to hear the full piece that surrounds it. We're so used to that bridge, that moment, those few bars that are the ones
seconds,
that, and then to hear the whole piece and hear how it all works together and how beautiful it is. Also talk to me, and both of you or either of you can address this, beyond just listening for the joy of listening, there's the whole element of education that comes from being exposed to this kind of music and to these kind of performances. Either of you can take this for me.
Yeah, absolutely. As a 35-year veteran educator, I can tell you that all the concerts that I've put on, not only at the school where I teach, but with ECHO, part of my goal is always education. Because through education, you can grow, you can be enriched, you can enjoy more. So at every concert, we try to do music that is kind of a hello, in other words, that people understand, that they already know, and we try to play some music that's a bit unfamiliar to them. Not in big doses, in smaller doses. That way they can internalize it without feeling that there's a barrier there for them. That this would be something easy for them to internalize because it's not too long, but it's interesting and just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Ernie, I want to pick up too, one of the elements of education that I think is really important with the orchestra is we're really teaching attention. And so sitting through an orchestral performance, you're not on your phone, you're being entertained, but you're not in front of a screen. You're really kind of teaching something different. And it's so interesting to me when after the concert, parents come out with their kids and they're like, oh my gosh, she sat and drew through the entire, performance, or sat and listened to the entire performance. And, a lot of these kids are like taking violin lessons, or, they're like learning how to expand their attention in those ways. But an orchestral performance just is like taking that idea out on the road and showing them like, this is the full, you do this as a kid, you do this as an adult, you look up at this orchestra, this could be you, in 20 years. You could be able to play professionally. It's really exciting.
I want to remind everyone we're talking with the Energy Corridor of Houston Orchestra, better known as ECHO's conductor, Michael Fahey, and executive director, Kelli Soika. Also, when you talk about that, I think about building a program that holds attention. We talked about, there are those tent poles that people know, those certain pieces of music. When you build a program out, are you looking to then shift from that, or are you trying to find things that ease into and out of those recognizable pieces?
I would say that it depends on the concert, but in this particular concert, we're certainly trying to do the latter. We're trying to find those tent poles, as you say, and then find other pieces that are not as well known, so that we can kind of ease in and out of music that's familiar and unfamiliar. Mm-hmm. The great thing is that the styles will all be familiar to folks. And although I did not grow up in the Hispanic tradition, I had a good feeling for this music, and I think, in a funny way, it had something to do with Desi Arnaz. Because I think
probably a lot of people's entry point into
that's right.
that
right.
rhythms.
Yes, right. So, for example, when you come to this concert, which I hope you will do on December 30th, you will hear music that you didn't know you knew.
Yeah.
You'll hear cumbanchero, and I say that, and most people, unless they're Latin, say, "Oh, okay, that sounds good, but I don't know what that is." But when you hear it, you'll go, "Wait a minute, that's the I Love Lucy."
Yeah, the theme.
Yeah, there were so many pieces like that. Or those of us who grow up at a certain era in the United States have this as part of our consciousness. And when they hear it, they will light up and go, "Wait a minute! Oh, that's where Lucy and Desi dance together." Oh, okay. Yeah.
So tell me, Kelli, then a little bit about the program itself.
Sure.
Take me into the program and I like that it's New Year's Eve celebration.
Exactly. So if you don't want to go out for New Year's Eve, you don't want to be on the roads, that's great. This is the night before. You can round out the year with a nice performance. So we'll gather and come in. We're going to have some appetizers beforehand. We're at the Hyatt Regency West. So it's a really great location for us. There's an area outside where you can meet and mingle a little bit and then head on in. The orchestra will open with Carmen, some arias from Carmen. We have this amazing soprano who has come actually from the University of Houston. She graduated from that program. And so we'll start there, and then we'll move into some folk songs that are kind of the toe-tapping, section of the performance. And then actually, I don't even know what are you saying yet, Michael? What we are closing with? I don't even know what the last.
Are we going to get an exclusive?
Let's just say you might want to listen to some episodes of I Love Lucy before you come to the show, so that you're ready.
There you go.
Yeah.
And that takes us through the end of the year, but it's not the end of your season. What else do you have coming up?
Well, interesting. So building upon this concert that we're putting together now, in January, I don't remember the date, we have a family concert.
17th.
January 17th. Yep. We're putting together our family concert. And our family concert began last year as a sort of miniature version of the New Year's Eve concert. Mm-hmm. And also put together in a way that is a little bit shorter, a little bit more kid-friendly. But we'll be
earlier in the day.
A little earlier in the day, right? And we usually have some kid activities so that they can be drawing during the concert. We last year we had a baton making booth where the kids could actually build a simple baton, and then there are some opportunities.
Could they help you conduct?
Yes, yes, we'll absolutely do that. Yeah,
looking for youth conductors.
Yeah.
I'm looking for that to be a fun moment.
Well, and it could be the young or the young at heart. So if if there's a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or an 80-year-old who wants to make a baton and come up and conduct the orchestra, I'm okay with that.
Oh, well, that's just a bit of it. You can find out everything else they're doing. It's an interesting web address to say because I want to say ECHOrchestra, but I can't. I can say ECHorchestra.com. HelloHouston.org.
That's perfect.
Correct.
That's the way to find it.
Yeah.
Michael Fahey, who is the conductor, executive director, Kelli Soika. Thank you both for coming in and representing the Energy Corridor of Houston Orchestra.
Thanks
you,
so
Ernie.
much.
It's been a pleasure.
Coming up, we're going to continue discussing today's top stories. We're also going to be joined by ABC 13's Melanie Lawson. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from arbitrator, mediator, and attorney Sylvia Mayer, providing in-person and video conference arbitration and mediation services. More information available at smayerlaw.com.
.41 degrees at the University of Houston with just a few clouds. Sunny today with a high in the low 50s. Clouds move in tonight with a low near 40. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll discuss more of today's top stories, including trial attorney Alejandra Salinas emerging victorious in Saturday's runoff election to fill a vacant at-large seat on the Houston City Council. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We'll also discuss the Harris County Democratic Party reprimanding Houston Mayor John Whitmire over the weekend, barring him from receiving its endorsement in the future.
Plus, we'll also be joined by longtime ABC 13 anchor Melanie Lawson, who will join to reflect on her extraordinary 43-year career with the station, as well as what comes next following her recently announced retirement.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. There's been an outpouring of tributes from Hollywood as news of the death of director Rob Reiner and his wife spread. NPR's Tamara Keith reports President Trump had a decidedly different response.
Reiner directed When Harry Met Sally and The Princess Bride, among other iconic films. He and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were also very involved in Democratic politics. In a Truth Social post, President Trump blamed their death on, quote, the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome. Trump went on to boast about his administration's successes, saying that pushed Reiner's, quote, obvious paranoia to new heights. There is no evidence that Reiner's politics had anything to do with his death. Reiner's son, Nick, has been arrested. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Los Angeles police has just confirmed to NPR that Nick Reiner has been booked for murder. Today is the final day Americans can sign up for health coverage next year through the Affordable Care Act. Roughly 24 million people use healthcare.gov, and many are facing higher premiums next year if ACA tax credits expire. NPR's Luke Garrett reports.
The plan puts forward a long-sought GOP proposal to increase access to employer-sponsored health insurance plans. This bill would give eligible Americans access to what's known as association health plans, a lot of names there, but basically smaller businesses and self-employed unemployed folks could band together, leverage their power, and purchase health care. The idea is it would create competition and lower prices. This GOP proposal would also require pharmacy benefit managers to report more data in hopes of shrinking drug costs.
NPR's Luke Garrett. Israel is warning its citizens around the world to avoid unsecured Hanukkah parties. This follows yesterday's deadly shooting in Australia. At least 15 people were killed and dozens wounded at a holiday gathering in Sydney. NPR's Daniel Estrin reports from Tel Aviv.
Israel's National Security Council is warning of copycat attacks and is calling on Israelis globally not to attend Jewish gatherings without security guards present. Israel's Mossad intelligence agency is helping investigate the Australia attack. That's according to a person briefed on the matter who spoke to NPR on condition of anonymity. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday blamed Australia's Prime Minister.
Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia, and the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
The Australian Prime Minister cut diplomatic ties with Iran this summer, accusing it of organizing 2 anti-Semitic attacks in Australia last year. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. In another blow to his political aspirations, former District D City Council member Dwight Boykins fell short in a runoff election for a vacant at-large seat on Houston City Council on Saturday. Boykins, a moderate, received 41% of the vote. Progressive Alejandra Salinas won with 59%. On election night, he referenced a website from the Salinas campaign highlighting a series of gaffes during his time in office and on the campaign trail, including his use of ChatGPT to write his policy priorities.
I'm always grateful for people who stand by me. Even when my opponent was doing negative campaign and misleading people, they still stood by me. And I'm grateful. I'll be forever grateful for their support.
Salinas says her campaign just shared the facts. The race fell on an off year because at-large council member Letitia Plummer is stepping down to run for Harris County judge next year. Salinas will have a short term in office before the next round of city elections in 2027. The Texans are continuing to climb closer and closer towards a guaranteed playoff spot this season. They beat the Arizona Cardinals 40-20 over the weekend. Jeff Balke is a writer for the Houston Press. He says that quarterback C.J. Stroud has made significant strides from the beginning of the year to now.
It took them time to figure out how to play within that offense, how the routes are going to be run, how to make those calls at the line. So there have been a number of things that have started to improve. Of course, he missed 3 games in concussion protocol, and he's now back 3 games from that.
If the season ended today, Houston would make the playoffs. The Texans will take on the Raiders on Sunday. And in high school sports, 3 local high schools have advanced to this week's state UIL football championship. Perennial powerhouse North Shore will play in the 6A large school championship on Saturday against Duncanville. C.E. King will play against DeSoto in the 6A Division II championship. Randall High School in Richmond will play in the 5A Division II title game. It's 43 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their dining and entertainment card, Savor. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're back.
Welcome back to the second
So nice
hour.
to see Shara.
Yes.
For me, I mean, we did work together from 89 to 1995. And,
oh, wow.
And then I went to Channel 2.
Yeah.
But she was always so she listens and she communicates and she's warm and she's just a kind person.
Yeah.
And Melanie Lawson is on later today. So.
It's like a Frank family album.
Come on, you have a family too. You've been here as long as I have.
I remember like the way I know Shara the most is that we shared a hairdresser. And so
Michael Kipper,
right? And so it was Michael Whitmire was the one we
Michael
initially
Kipper's
shared.
salon.
Yes. Well, Michael Whitmire had his own, and I would be in the chair getting my hair done. And she would come in, go to a station, do her own hair with his product. And then when she came out, she would tip him and leave. And I thought, now that's the best gig in this business to have.
But, it's interesting, though, Ernie. I thought your last question that you posed to her about, will we see another name or, another personality, trusted voice like Dave?
Yeah.
And it made me think about you, Frank, in that you also saw very much the evolution of local television commercial news.
Yep.
And kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that there's so much noise out there. It's hard for one person to rise,
to break through it all.
Especially when you think about appointment television. I mean, there was a time when everyone had to watch the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
And I became a household name because I was the weekend guy at Channel 13. And everybody had to see the Sunday 10 o'clock news and weather to get ready for their day. And Texas Commerce Bank sponsored a 7-day forecast every Sunday. I'm like, 7 days? I don't even know the next two. And I'm like, that was 1989. We didn't have near the models and everything we have. We were doing a 3-day. That was normal, a 3-day forecast, and they wanted a 7-day. But I kind of moved things forward and said, okay, we'll do our best, and I did that. But because of that was the number one show in Houston, that 10 o'clock, because that was before Sunday Night Football and all of that.
Right.
We had Monday Night Football on ABC.
Yeah.
But not Sunday Night Football. So we were the number one watched. I mean, we beat Roseanne, we beat Cosby, we beat all of them.
Yeah.
Everything. We were number one.
Yeah.
And that's why people started to know who I was because of that show.
Well, just to remind everyone, too, in the first hour, we were reflecting on and remembering the career and the life of Dave Ward, who left us, and Shara Fryer was in the studio to share with us her recollection of having sat beside him for many, many years.
He was always so nice to me.
Yeah.
Dave and Marvin both were nice to me.
Yeah. Celeste, you were about to say something there, and I cut you off just to remind people what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot. And it's going to be interesting because we're also going to have Melanie Lawson in, as you were just saying, and there's a lot of those.
Somebody else who
we're going to continue those discussions. I had more questions, but I think I'll save those.
Yeah, okay. And we want to talk about her career and retirement. I think she'll probably have a reflection or two on Dave also.
For sure.
When you talk about that noise, you won't see that. I even think about that in like television programs that had long holds, things like that, stuff that would go on and on. Artists, musical artists today, they come and they go relatively quickly. Even though some have some staying power, it's nothing like the staying power when you had a tighter circle.
And it also seems like there are these pockets now. Somebody, there's a lot of influencers in Houston who have thousands of followers who have never been on a local TV commercial station.
Yeah.
Very different way to communicate.
There are multiple ways of communicating. And so I think that's
There are probably bigger names and stars on social media now than local TV.
That's interesting, Frank.
It's very possible.
Very much so. Speaking of things that are catching everyone's attention quickly, cold tonight. Are we going to have another freeze snap or no?
No, 42 tonight and a warm-up that will continue into the week. Another little front comes in Friday to give us a cool down, but then Christmas.
Don't stop saying it.
Tuesday
make it true.
Afternoon and Wednesday afternoon, Christmas Eve, and Thursday afternoon, 80 degrees every afternoon. So
I've got to rethink my outfits.
For some people, that is what makes Houston a great city to live in.
I love it.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about. Frank enjoys it.
Well, as we already mentioned, Melanie Lawson will be joining us a little later on in this hour to share with us as she has announced her retirement.
Yes.
From
after
local
a
news.
long 4-decade career.
A storied career.
She's terrific. Yep.
Other stories we've been following are the headlines. And Celeste, bring us in.
Trial attorney Alejandra Salinas beat former city council member Dwight Boykins in Saturday's runoff election to fill a vacant at-large seat on the Houston City Council. Salinas, a more progressive candidate, received 59.3% of the Harris County vote, according to results released released by the county clerk's office. Small numbers of voters in Fort Bend and Montgomery counties also voted in the runoff. More than 17,000 people voted in Harris County on Election Day after over 26,000 ballots were cast in the county during the early voting period. When Salinas takes office in January, she said her focus will be the exact things she campaigned on: affordable and reliable city services, safer neighborhoods, and fighting for a stronger infrastructure. Did you vote on Saturday? If you didn't, what kept you from casting your ballot? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870.
I did not. I admit it, Ernie.
I voted.
I did not vote.
Bad boy.
And you know why? I completely forgot.
Yep.
There's just not enough. You didn't say it enough last week.
I thought about that. We talked a lot about it being an early election period. And then when it came to Friday, it totally slipped my mind to remind everyone that Saturday was the day to do it. The part that stands out for me in this whole story is, if taking Celeste's numbers there, 53-ish thousand people voted out of 2 million potential voters.
Wow.
And so it's not really any kind of better candidate, any kind of preferred candidate. It's which candidate was able to mobilize people to go out and vote. And that's what it's become. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be the person who has the best reach wins. It should be that the community picks who they think is best. Now, that's not to say this wasn't the outcome that would have happened had it been done that way. I'm just pointing out the fact so few people vote. We were with Anise Parker last night, actually. And I was thinking back when she won, I think it was her second term into office. It was under 100,000 votes total in that election that got her back into the mayor's office.
Let me ask you this. When do we start predicting the winner? It seems like when 1% of the vote is in, they already say, well, it looks like with 1% of the vote in, the Democrat has won.
Because they know the trends. They know what's going to happen.
Point.
Yeah.
Did that many people have to vote? If
Oh, yes, because the trend has to happen.
You said 50,000 voted. If 500,000 had voted, would it have been the same breakdown, you think?
It's kind of the way they look at ratings for television.
Yeah.
That they look at a very specific group of people that represent thousands of people for each individual they look at. And so they can start to build profiles, and that's how they predict that. In polling, news polling, when it comes to election results, it's a combination of exit polling. They've been talking to voters, so they kind of have a feeling of how people voted. Does it match up with what we've seen in early voting? There's lots of algorithms that are put in, histories of areas, how they vote. So when 1% is out, it really isn't the 1% that's telling you what the vote is going to be. It's that they've already done the calculations out there.
Yeah.
But you'll see sometimes as they get later into the evening on some other races, it'll get like, okay, 87% is reporting and they still can't call a winner because they don't have a defined estimate.
With ratings for television, for years it was 400. 400 people determine what station was number one in Houston. Now it's not much, it's twice that, but it's only 800 to 900 people that will tell you what station is number one, because they feel like that's a big enough sample if you've got those meters and the right zip codes.
But let's go back to the question that Celeste asked too: voter apathy. You know, people not voting. Now, I thought about it. I had totally forgotten to vote during early voting, and you know me, I love to vote. It's one of my favorite things to do. And on Saturday, I was sitting in a chair in my living room thinking, oh, I got stuff to do tonight. I gotta go. And I was like, no, get up, go vote. It took a total of like 2 minutes there.
Yeah,
and
there's an old joke that a pollster asks a voter coming out that, don't you think the problem with voting these days is ignorance and apathy? The guy said, I don't know and I don't care.
713-440-8870. Did you vote? Did you not vote? If you didn't vote, why didn't you? And if you did vote, what motivated you to go to the polls?
I think there's probably two points to voter apathy, and I think the first one is alienation. I think a lot of people feel like, why even try?
Right.
You know, why do I even go out and do that? You know, no, they don't. My vote doesn't count. It's just going to be knocked out. And then the other one is voter fatigue. I think people right now,
we do a lot of
right
voting.
here in Harris County specifically, we've heard of the different deadlines changing, and we're making national news based on redistricting and things.
Right.
And I think that those are the two main buckets.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting. People are just fatigued in general about it. So
let us know. What do
it's
you
unfortunate.
think? Does Celeste ring your bells on those topics? Did that say, yep, that's me? 713-440-8870. 8870.
Speaking of politics, Houston Mayor John Whitmire has been formally admonished by the local Democratic Party. A significant rebuke for the lifelong Democrat. On Sunday, Harris County Democratic precinct chairs voted 186 to 80 to bar Whitmire from receiving the party's endorsement in the future. The resolution grew out of frustration over Whitmire's attendance earlier this year at a fundraiser for Republican U.S. Representative Dan Crenshaw, a move critics said, quote, crossed a line for a Democratic mayor. Though largely symbolic, the party did not make an endorsement in the 2023 mayoral race when Whitmire was first elected. The vote does nonetheless mark a notable political setback for a popular incumbent. In a statement Sunday night, Whitmire thanked his many supporters and said the resolution changes nothing, pointing to his more than 50-year record of voting and supporting Democratic values. So what are your thoughts? Was this necessary? Does this hurt Whitmire? Does it hurt the party? Is it just symbolic? 713-440-8870. Thoughts?
We were concerned, I will say it that way, when our mayor was on the invitation for Dan Crenshaw's fundraiser. Does this need to happen? I don't think so. Admonishing a Democratic, a self-identified Democratic mayor in a rather blue city at a time when you hear the governor saying, I want to change everything red across Harris County to deep red. Are you not hurting yourselves if you're infighting in a place you don't need to infight? You can be disgusted, you can be upset, you can be angry at a behavior, but you don't push people out of your party who are actually winning in your party in a time you need to win.
And well liked.
And
I think John Whitmire's a well-liked mayor. I think he's doing a great job.
There's controversy about surrounding his position. So when you say well-liked, there are people in the party that obviously are concerned with the direction he is going with things. But does that change him from being a Democrat?
Well, we talked about this earlier, that Democrats, when you're in the mayor's position, which is supposed to be nonpartisan, even if you're a lifelong Democrat, you have to reach across the aisle because Dan Crenshaw is going to vote on money at the federal level that comes to us. Right. Just like with Governor Abbott, he has to be nice to Governor Abbott, even though he may not support his politics.
It's political civility. And I think that there's still space in our government, local, state, federal, to have political civility. And this, to me, the infighting or the we're pushing a sitting mayor out is to me distracting, and it's unfortunate.
And the other point is, putting your name on the invitation is one thing, and how that came to be, I don't know the full story behind that. But our mayor is a nonpartisan position. That is the point of how we did this. We developed this position to be the best candidate to run the city, not the best Democrat or best Republican. And so he has to be the mayor for all of the city, and he has to work with county, state, and national legislators.
And he'll continue to.
713-440-8870 on the line. Jacob from Montrose. Jacob, what do you think?
United we stand, divided we fall.
Good point.
Yep. Mayor Whitmire is a great friend of mine. In fact, he gave me a backpack, the transparent backpack for me to use at my work at NRG Park. And it's quite useful. And I got a letter from Jane Wu where he congratulates me on being very active, going to the city hall and speaking before the city council and going before Harris County Commissioners Court and speaking before them. And this Wednesday, I plan to double for the Houston First Corporation and talk to them about stuff.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacob.
Jacob, thank you for calling and sharing that with us. We're continuing to want to know, what do you think about this admonishment? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. But we were also talking about voting, too. It's all interconnected here. And we had from YouTube, Braden said, I voted on Saturday. What moved me was the fact that I knew it was super easy and it could lead to impactful change in our community. Good job there.
Way to go.
And let's go to the phone lines. We have a call from Dennis from Garden Oaks. Dennis, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Yeah, I just wanted to call in. My father was an election judge,
for many years. And so when Donald Trump started attacking people that were running the elections, acting like there was a problem, I knew that I could never not vote again, because those people volunteering for next to nothing are public servants, and they deserve people showing up to do the work, to do the work of democracy, which is voting. And so it's an insult to everybody involved if you don't show up. So that's why I show up.
Good for you.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was just going to say, because people often complain, oh, the elections are on Tuesdays and I have to work and I can't get that. Well, in our special elections and our runoff elections, they're on a Saturday. So on your way wherever you're going, swing. If you don't have to work on a Saturday, swing by and vote.
Well, I get so many texts from political candidates wanting money. You'd think I would get a text saying, don't forget to vote today. But I never got that text.
Oh, you didn't? I got those texts.
I didn't get
see
that
those.
one. I didn't get anything on Saturday, or I would have been reminded and I would have gone. But I'm not blaming anybody but myself.
Doris on YouTube said, I voted early. I always vote. It's so important. And also followed it up, while I'm not happy that Mayor Whitmire, she's hitting both of these stories, Mayor Whitmire attended Republican Representative Crenshaw's event. You got to talk to everyone, even, as Doris puts it, the bad guys.
But coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to talk with broadcasting legend Melanie Lawson. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Support comes from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider dedicated to supporting the state's businesses through safety-focused policyholder plans and annual programs. More at texasmutual.com/TXM Advantage.
Support comes from the Moody Center for the Arts, hosting Art Lab, where guests can create zip tie sculptures inspired by Biomorph. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. December 16th through the 20th. More at moody.rice.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. With 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through research, education, and care that push the frontiers of modern science.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro. Introducing Metro Downtown Direct, helping riders get home for the holidays with non-stop service between downtown and Bush Intercontinental Airport. Details at ridemetro.org/500.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
A familiar and trusted face in Houston television is signing off after more than 4 decades at ABC 13. Longtime anchor Melanie Lawson is retiring, marking the end of an extraordinary career in local journalism. And she joins us now to reflect on her 43 years at the station, the stories that shaped Houston, and what comes next. Melanie, welcome to Hello Houston. If you'd like to join the conversation, call or text us at 713-440-8870. You look lovely. How are you feeling now that the end of the road is in sight?
You know what? There are times when I am so excited and ready to go, and other times I think, what was I doing? You know? But I'm excited about what's ahead. I know it's going to be a big deal. By the way, longtime listener, first-time caller, big fans of all you guys, and thanks so much for including me today.
You know, just in a very general question, does it seem like 43 years, or does it seem like just yesterday?
You know what? It's amazing. Time is so elastic, isn't it? That's one of the things you learn the older you get. And it does feel like, you know, maybe 2 minutes ago, but it does feel like it's gone by just like,
Well,
Frank, you can attest to that, I bet.
Well, and can also attest that you look the same as the day I met you. And I think we met in 1989, and you were beautiful then, and you still are. You look terrific. Did you tell me you have a law degree? Did I get that right?
I actually do. As I tell people, if I'm your lawyer, we're both going to jail. So let me just say that right up front. But the reality, yes, exactly. But I did go to law school. I actually practiced law in New York on Wall Street for about 3 years before I came back here, took a huge pay cut, and never looked back.
That's my question. I mean, especially I'll just say it, especially for a female to get through law school, be a Wall Street lawyer in New York City, that's a big deal. And you said, you know what? I think I can do pretty well anchoring the news back home. How did that happen?
Well, it started with the fact that I was an intern at Channel 13. I worked the summers here several times. And from that, I came back as a regular reporter. I'm not kidding about taking that pay cut thing, but I came back because law really wasn't speaking to me. I was a corporate attorney, and I spent my time suing one fat cat for another fat cat. So one day I woke up and said, I've got to go back home. So it wasn't entirely out of the blue, but pretty close to it.
But if I'm not mistaken, Princeton University and then Columbia University, did your parents look at it and say, like, wait a minute, we've really invested in this future for you. What are you doing coming back to local news?
There was some of that. My mother was so funny because first she wanted me to go to law school and practice law. Then she wanted me to come back home and be on TV. So you can never win with your parents. But I just decided that it was certainly more fruitful for me. I'm looking for the right word. I just love the news business so much more, and I felt like I could really contribute more that way.
Was there ever a moment, Melanie, that you realized once you were back home, once you were sitting in this career and becoming this trusted voice right here in Houston, that you were like, yeah, I made the right decision? Talk to us about that.
You know what? Every single day after I came back, now, just like everybody else, there were some days that weren't so great. But in general, I got up every morning and felt as though this was what I was meant to do. So, I felt like that all of the time, believe it or not, even after those 18-hour days with flooding, right, Frank?
Yeah, I remember Peter Jennings telling me so succinctly that when you're in this business, you have a front seat on the very front row to history. And certainly you have had a front seat to Houston history. Mm-hmm. Are there some of the events that are just continue to play over in your mind? Mm-hmm. All the weather events play over in mine for an obvious reason, but there's got to be some other than weather that you play and you think, gosh, how do we get through it?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know as well as anybody just how horrifying some of the stories we cover can be. I think about Columbine, the first time we saw a mass shooting at a school. But there were some wonderful things too. I mean, how do you beat a parade for first two NBA championships and a couple of World Series? Yeah. So those have been terrific. But I always liked politics and history. Those were actually the two things I studied while I was in school. And for me, it was just always fun to see the rough and tumble of politics. I think I covered every election almost from the time I worked here and did lots of exit interviews, if you can call it that, with mayors who were on their way out the door. But no, it's just been an amazing career. I can't say there was one, Frank, but I remember our entire newsroom kind of being picked up and transported to San Antonio when the Pope was in Texas. And you just can't get better than stuff like that, or some of the people you're able to interview.
Yeah. Take me back, though, because unlike a lot of folks that are in this business, you also had a storied childhood because of who your parents were and your father's work in the civil rights movement, Reverend Lawson. I'm curious, having that exposure growing up, in a sense, did the news become your pulpit? Was that the place where you could preach to the people and share the stories like your father did the work he did?
Wow, that's good, Ernie. That's really good.
Yeah, that's heavy, Ernie.
Absolutely. It really is. No, I don't pretend to have been in the pulpit by any stretch of the imagination. But there were a lot of people that I met in this business, actually in my childhood before I got into this business. And I have a tendency, I think, not to put anybody up on a pedestal. So you should be able to talk to the CEO and the janitor with equal respect. And that's something I learned early on. I also watched the city change up close and personal because I was part of the first group of Black students who desegregated HISD. So there are many things that have happened in my childhood and growing up that probably colored, no pun intended, the way I saw a lot of stories.
You know, life has changed, especially for television. We were talking with Shara an hour ago about the gold.
To me, cool.
Yes. You know, the golden age was so much, of course, the 70s and 80s, but for you and me, the 80s and 90s, and now it's so different. It's even hard to tell up-and-coming journalism students how to plan their career because it's all changed so much. What is your view on where we are and where we were?
Well, one of the things I like is that we have so many citizen journalists out there. There are people who can actually report the news who don't have to have a degree. But that also lends itself to an awful lot of misinformation. The lines have blurred so much that sometimes it's hard to tell what you want to listen to, what you want to trust. And that's been changing at rapid speed. It is so fast. 1 minute you think you know what's going on, the next minute you don't. I mean, I can't imagine that a few years ago I would be talking to you guys on a podcast that's actually being televised as well.
Yeah, we are just as surprised.
Every day when they let us do it, we're surprised.
But, you know, Melanie, do you think it's harder for young reporters and anchors now to kind of be that person within a community because there are so many other ways for people to get their information?
Yeah, I don't always envy their situations. I think for a whole lot of younger reporters, they're just trying to, as Frank said, make their way in this business, such as it is. For many of them, I've been interested to see how many people kind of come and go now. As Frank can attest, Channel 13 was always a place where you came and you stayed forever if you were lucky enough to do so. And now there's much more of a tendency to see this as a stop on the way. And many of the young reporters who go on don't even stay in the news business. They go on to do so many other things. And I just think it attests to the difficulty of finding our way right now.
Well, you know, when I look back at it, we used to cover, I know when I was at 13, the rodeo would show up in town, and we were all at the rodeo covering it every single day.
That's right. That's
I mean,
exactly
if you could breathe by the end of it with all of that smell, you know, but that community connection that local television had with the city, we're trying very hard to continue it, but it's difficult.
Well, there's so many more options, don't you think? You don't just have a handful of news stations that you watch religiously. I love Frank. I'm going to watch Channel 2. I love Mel. I'll watch Channel 13. It's just a lot harder, I think, for people to know where to go, know what they're looking at. I mean, AI has me suspicious of just about every image I see. And I can't imagine that a lot of people don't feel the same way. So I think that's it, just so many more options.
Did you feel the turn in, I don't know if respect is the right word, or understanding of our profession as we have started to see more and more attacks on journalism? Is it surprising to you to see people's reaction, or do you think folks still, in the everyday level, get what we do and still appreciate it?
I think locally they do. It's very important to people to hear what's happening in their neighborhood, in their child's school. They want to know more about the sports teams. I think locally, people are trusted. Newscasters are still trusted. I think on the national scale, and because of that sort of yin and yang, that tug between politics and news, I think there is a lot more mistrust out there. And frankly, it's pretty sad to see, because it used to be you could read a story and assume most of the facts were correct. Now you have no idea in many cases. And that's disturbing. It's really sad for us.
You know, when I started to see the newspaper not be thrown to the door anymore, and I did for me until it just didn't get thrown anymore. I stuck with it as long as I could. But when I thought, okay, I'm not reading the newspaper from a newspaper any longer, the world had changed for me. And now it is so rapid. Do you think that there is something you could advise people when they are looking for the right news source?
Well, I think for starters, you go to the more traditional news sources. Many of the magazines and newspapers that we've all wired stories, if we can even call them that anymore. I think you start there, but at some point it's up to the viewer, the reader, to find their own information, to somehow or another gather enough different angles on a story, for instance, so that you come somewhere to a much more trustworthy source. And a lot of times I look at what Time or Newsweek or whatever streaming I'm looking at. I look to see who they quote, and then I'm able to go back to the original source. But it's a lot more difficult now. And if everybody else is like me, sometimes you don't know what to believe.
So do you find then that changes the way you report a story than maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, with the way the audience has changed how they receive these messages?
I happen to think that the fundamentals haven't changed. There is a lot more sort of razzle-dazzle, but basically a good story is a good story. When you interview somebody, you want to be respectful. When you put your story together, you want to have everything verified as best you can. And so in that sense, I think what we do is more important than ever.
Yeah. You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with longtime ABC 13 anchor Melanie Lawson. If you would like to join the conversation, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
Melanie, we were talking with Shara about her memories of Dave Ward, and I mean, we all have them. What are your reflections that come to the forefront?
Well, first of all, we're really going to miss him. I shared an office with Dave and Shara and Art Rascone for a lot of years, and then sat next to Dave on our row when we all have cubicles. So I'm going to miss my friend very, very much. He and I used to watch Jeopardy together every afternoon. But, you know, Dave was such a wonderful study in contrast. On the one hand, he was the consummate anchor man. That big booming voice. He'd never let anything go out that he hadn't verified and checked, and called up the producer and made him or her rewrite it again. But on the other hand, he was just a regular guy, and he always made it a point to be a regular guy. You know, his greeting every evening, "Good evening, friends," really was the truth. He felt like he was friends with just about everybody out there. And I've seen people walk up to him out of nowhere and start talking, and Dave is always interested, especially if they're talking about stuff like sports. But he was just the kind of guy that took everybody under wing and took us to task sometimes. But there was no greater compliment, especially for a young reporter, than Dave Ward saying to you, "Great story, good job."
You're absolutely right. And I recall, you may recall this too. There was a reporter that had been sent out to do a story, and he said, and he asked a question. And the reporter said, you know, I haven't gotten the answer to that yet. And he said, well, then we'll stop right here and give you a chance to go get that answer, and we'll come back. And I thought, oh my God, he just called that reporter out big time. But he didn't do that often. But boy, he would let you have it if he wasn't happy.
I've even seen him, when we didn't have it together, at the top of the newscast say, we're going to take a break and come back and get ourselves together, which I love about him. No, he just, it was why he was so trusted, because Dave literally went line by line on every script. He would make a call if he wasn't comfortable with the information, but he never let anything go on air that he had not personally checked out.
Yeah. Does that impact the way you worked? Growing up next to someone like that on the air, growing up, does that make you look at how you do your job differently? And if so, do you then try to be a role model for other up-and-comers in the newsroom too?
Man, Ernie, you're on point today. I really appreciate that. And the answer is yes, of course. Forgive me. It's great that I'm on y'all's show so I can drink in between.
Yeah, that's what a good podcast radio show is all about. I've got my coffee going here.
That is exactly right. But yeah, Dave absolutely influenced every one of us. You knew better than to show up like that poor reporter without having all the information you need. And God forbid it happened on live TV. But it did. It made us all much better about verifying everything that we put out there. And he was just a mentor to all of us. You look at Dave and you say, now that's an anchor man. And yet at the same time, he was able to communicate so well with so many people out there. And I think that's why people trusted him. They sensed that he really was, a neighbor and a friend, and that was not just something he said.
Yeah, I think, we hear the word authentic being a key to success in our business. And it's hard to find a lot of authentic people like Dave Ward. As you say, consummate professional, but an all-around just good, fun guy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what, Frank? I think sometimes that authenticity is kind of trained out of people, if that makes sense. That they want us now to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? I won't say cookie cutter, but that's kind of what I mean. They would rather have us follow a certain set of rules and do it quickly. And you don't always have time to do the things that an anchor man like Dave would demand. But he set the bar very high, that gold standard. And as a result, we definitely know which way we were supposed to be going, even if we didn't always get there. And I hope a lot of young reporters did see him as a role model. I think all of us here did.
All right. So, Melanie, you really going to retire? Because some of us tried, and my retirement lasted about as long as Dominique Sachs's maternity leave. So it didn't go very long for me. What are you going to do? And when are you going to do it?
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I'm going to sleep for a month. That is my, that is already right there as my first act. And then I haven't decided, Frank. It's been a long time doing this. And I thought I might give myself a bit of a break. Obviously, do some traveling, visiting some friends, doing all those things that somehow you never quite had enough time for. And then I'll let you know. Maybe I'll try to take your job.
You may well get it. So tell me this. I know you've been, as I have been, you've been very open about your health and the struggles you've had. You look great. How are you doing? Can you update us?
Yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well, although these days I use a wheelchair more than I used to. Once it was a cane all the time, and that was great for decades until I fell and broke my ankle. And that sort of put things in perspective pretty quickly. But in general, I'm doing well, Frank. I'm blessed every day. I wake up and look around and I'm on the right side of the ground, and it's a good day.
Yep. Melanie, I have to ask you, as a female journalist in this landscape, I've heard such wonderful, genuine compliments about you from other female journalists. And I'm curious, what helped you stay grounded in such a fast-paced and public-facing career?
Well, that's a nice thing to say. I think it starts off with your parents. I don't care how glamorous you think you are. By the time I get home, between my siblings, my parents, and my church, there are a lot of people that keep me straight, right? So that helps a lot. But also, I think my North Star has been our job is to inform the public, to speak for a lot of people who can't speak for themselves. And it was what got me into this business. It's certainly been what I've tried to do throughout my career. And I think even though we've had more challenges as women, I think these days it's a lot more open to women of all kinds. And I think that's wonderful. I just hope that as far as being a role model, I haven't been a bad one for so many women out there.
We are speaking with ABC 13 anchor Melanie Lawson, who has announced her retirement. God forbid.
We'll see if she gets there.
And we're taking your calls and questions at 713-440-8870. Judy is on the line. Judy from Galleria, what's on your mind today?
Melanie, I am calling to give voice to someone who is no longer among us, but who prized you as a young woman, and that is Sister Paul Marie.
Oh, that's lovely.
She
that is lovely.
Her career with deep joy and great pride, and she would want me to give voice to her to salute you as Houston celebrates your legacy and your great skill and integrity that you have brought to us all.
Well, Judy, that is such a wonderful thing to say. And thank you for letting me know that the sister was pleased with me. I very much appreciate it. That's great.
Judy, thank you for that. I'm guessing there's a story behind this sister that we don't know. Who is this sister?
Well, I believe this is one of the nuns that taught me.
Yeah, go on, Melanie.
Oh, I was going to say, and Judy can correct me, I believe this may have been one of the nuns that taught me over at Mount Carmel High School. I was a nice Baptist girl going to a Catholic high school. And so I believe that's where I knew Sister Paul Marie. Is that correct, Judy?
I think she's off the line, but that's brave.
Okay.
A Baptist in the Catholic world is a brave thing. Trust me, I married a Catholic. I know. So
exactly.
We've had a couple of very nice YouTube comments from Charlie Parker. Thank you, Melanie, for being a positive light in our daily lives, and enjoy your retirement. And our wine goddess Texas says Melanie Lawson always has the most kind and sweet demeanor while reporting the news. I really appreciate the work she has done. Enjoy that retirement. If it's anything like Frank's, she'll be busy. That's true.
I know. That's what I figured. That's what I figured. But those are lovely comments. Thank you so much for reading them to me.
Well, as for a longtime listener, first-time caller, you're one of the best we've had. I will say that. You're absolutely, and you do truly look sensational. For those on YouTube that can see you, enjoy that retirement, Melanie. If there's any advice you need, just let me know.
Well, I was about to ask you that, young man. What advice would you give me?
You know, sleep for a month. That's a good place to start.
Thank you for everything you've given us through a storied career. Such an honor to have you with us today. Thanks for talking with us.
Absolutely. And the one thing I will say is I miss those hurricanes, Frank, not only in the past. I don't love to see them coming, but you and I have covered an awful lot of natural disasters.
Yes.
And I kind of miss that action, but I have a feeling the next time around I'll be lucky to stay home and not worry about my power.
Hey, there's nothing more exciting than not knowing the future.
That's true. Absolutely. Very well said. Thank you.
Melanie
Best advice I've heard.
Melanie Lawson, thank you for joining us again today on Hello Houston, and congratulations on what's to come.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we're going to give you the latest on the Rob Reiner murder case. We'll be back after this break.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Really make you think. like astrophysicist Brian Greene explaining the scientific theory that our universe is just one of many.
And the image that I like to have in mind is, imagine that our universe is like one slice of bread in a much grander cosmic loaf, with the other slices of bread being other universes.
No subject is too big for fresh air. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Houston Symphony, presenting Elf in Concert at Jones Hall, featuring the full movie accompanied by live orchestra performing the score, December 19th through 21st. Information at houstonsymphony.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Houston Habitat for Humanity, where volunteering can create a home for a Houston family. Together we build joy. Learn more at houstonhabitat.org/NPR.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Seems like there's a lot of very sad and heavy news today. Acclaimed filmmaker and actor Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, were found dead in their Los Angeles home yesterday. Authorities are treating the deaths as an apparent homicide. Los Angeles firefighters responded to a call for medical aid Sunday afternoon and discovered the couple in their home. Reiner was 78, Singer was 68. Their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner, has been taken into custody in connection with the case and is being held on $4 million bail on felony charges, according to sheriff's records. Reiner's work, from his groundbreaking role as Meathead on All in the Family to directing classics like This Is Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, and The Princess Bride, made him one of Hollywood's most recognized storytellers. His film touched generations of audiences. In a statement from former President Barack Obama, he remembered Reiner for giving audiences, quote, some of our most cherished stories, while friends and collaborators across the industry have shared their grief. Los Angeles Police Department continue to investigate, and the family has asked for privacy as they mourn this tragic loss. We'll remember Rob Reiner and his work, and we ask you, how has his work touched you? Roles in films you may remember, or the impact one of his stories may have had on you. Here's an opportunity to share and celebrate the life of Rob Reiner with us at 713-440-8870.
So tragic. It's so tragic. You know, his other son, Jake Reiner, worked at Channel 2.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people know Jake Reiner, but they didn't realize he was Rob Reiner's son. Mm-hmm. One of the sweetest, nicest guys. Went back to Los Angeles to be near his family and seek his career out there. And my heart goes out to him and, of course, all the friends and family of the Reiners. It's just, I can't even fathom it, to be honest with you. And then to have your own brother be the one that is suspected of this, it's just so tough. And you think about All in the Family. We were talking about the golden age of television. In the early 70s, there were about 200 million Americans. 43 million of them were watching All in the Family every single week and couldn't tape it.
You had to be there. It was appointment viewing.
You had to be there. You had to watch it. A quarter of this country were watching Archie Bunker and Meathead kind of get us through our culture at that time, which was very difficult because so much Vietnam War, segregation coming to an end, gay rights, women's rights, they touched everything. And it made him, he didn't rest on those acting laurels. He became an amazing director.
Right. And I think as we look at this as a society, obviously it's tragic, it's complex, and we're also remembering those times where our culture was different, where we all kind of received information the same way. We watched the same shows. We didn't have multiple streaming services. You went to your local news.
We weren't told what to think.
We weren't told
either.
what to think. Yeah. And nowadays, just last night we were watching Toy Story with my kids, and my husband and I were talking about we used to all play with the same toys.
Yeah,
that's true.
We used to all play with the same
toys.
Point.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting to take a little twist on that whole thing when you think about somebody becoming a director and what stories they choose to tell. There tends to be a certain genre they happen to work within, where Rob Reiner was all over the place, from comedies to rom-coms to deep, A Few Good Men, deep dramas.
Yeah.
You know, he told the stories of a generation from very different points of view, and each one shaded it more. As we continue to remember Rob Reiner, you can call and share with us 713-440-8870. Sophia from Southwest Houston is on the line. Sophia, what's on your mind today?
Rob Reiner was one of the most influential directors in my life when I was younger. His film, like The Princess Bride, it was a movie that my husband and I and our daughter, who was little, could watch it together. She loved it so much that she memorized so many lines from it.
As many people did. Yeah.
You know, I told Jake, I said, I loved your dad on Twitter because he's so left and liberal and he's so for human rights. I love following him. And Jake said, well, if you love following him, you should follow my mom. She's even more liberal, which, you know, and now both of those voices, that support for so many communities has been silenced. It's really sad.
And as sad as all of that is, we will continue to be able to celebrate his work and career and what he has given to us by watching his films.
Our children and grandchildren
will be
celebrate.
impacted by this man. I had an opportunity to interview him, and he was just a wonderful guy to sit with and chat with.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of our show. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we want to thank you for watching and listening to us today on Hello Houston. We're going to be back tomorrow with more conversations. We're going to be discussing Governor Abbott's plan to abolish school property taxes. Stay with us. Join us tomorrow. And this is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based